Planning and building. Looking for a balance between quality and cost in a real estate or construction business is not easy. And it is that what involves more money without a doubt are the construction costs. In addition, these generally increase above inflation, which can negatively affect the financial result of a project. Given this situation, it is normal for a developer to always be looking for savings in construction items. Forcing that reduction of costs in construction can negatively affect the quality or perception of quality of your work. In that moment, what could have been an economic benefit for the project becomes a serious problem that impacts on the relationship with the client, and it can affect us deeply. In this video, we will tell you what are the red flags so you don't waste money by trying to save it. Greetings to all the builders out there. My name is Jesus Arroyo and I'm an architect living in Mexico. And as I mentioned before, when you force that construction reduction and cost reduction in your construction, it can negatively affect the quality or perception of quality of your work. In that moment, what could have been an economic benefit for the project becomes a serious problem that impacts on the relationship with the client, and it can affect us deeply. The above does not mean that we should not seek to be cost efficient, but that we should do so without deviating from the basis with which the project was planned and the commercial standards that are delivered to the client were defined. In the second issue, it is important assessing quality considering three main aspects: the quality of the construction that arises from its material, the quality of its execution, result of which of this work was made and in all its finishes, and the quality of the project in the functional aspect. The latter refers that the feeling that the client has that all spaces are useful, comfortable with an internal solution, lighting and ventilation, use of circulations, location of facilities, etc., etc. A project that has quality deviations caused by trying to reduce costs will face at the appearance of various hidden costs, which can range from the cancellation of the operation by the customers or having to answer for the guarantee of the product delivered, even legal proceedings due to buyers' disagreements. Details to consider as that our industry has very own characteristics that affect the way in which its costs are consolidated. Some of them are: it is a nomadic industry. When it ends, the project moves to another site. Also, the product that is created is unique, pretty much a craft. There's a high turnover of personnel and low-skilled labor, especially in Mexico. We don't have like the ocean and things like that very much here, and I pretty much believe in other third world countries like Mexico, we don't have that many institutions dedicated to the training of and qualifying of the handwork pretty much, and it interacts with many other industries that provide services. Decisions are based on experience rather than research, and these conditions make it difficult for most business theories on cost control to apply directly to our industry. At the beginning of a project, the cost teams formulate a series of assumptions that will serve as a basis for the costing process, especially if you have sellers that are not architects but they just tend to sell, and pretty much that's the only job they have, so they're not very close to the processes that we have in construction, which should be very, especially when you have a construction big team, you pretty much tend to use more salespeople, And when we speak of forcing savings, we meant to deviate from the initial planning that was made of the project and by means of which the financial parameters were structured. But in addition, the client's perception was anchored. If you plan savings are achieved through the selection of methods that will be used in the construction or materials for the work, the same results will not be generated as by diverting the initial planning. The task of achieving original efficiencies is based on carrying an internal process with the premise and linking it to deep cost review. This is not a video where we will analyze in depth a unit price. We will soon make videos of this topic, but it is important that you or your clients know this information, that builders is very common knowledge that the issue of cost is always an Achilles heel real estate development and construction, where many projects violate their execution schedule, about 85%, especially here in Mexico and Latin America, and of these have costs in the construction process, and many reactions to achieve these savings do not occur spontaneously, but they happen after an uncontrolled cost that the project faces, for example, an unexpected price increase, or in worse lost cases, there are suffer. And the main causes that causes losses and pretty much in the production process of the construction are like inconsistencies in the design of the project, although throughout the work there might be several reasons for the delay of some projects. One of the main problems in the construction designs is not because of the construction per se, but because it's taken for granted the custom of starting construction. We're pretty much used to here in Latin America that rich people want us to start right away, and they don't wait for the floor plans to be done or even the budget. So they want to start right away. They want to start building and seeing something, and that's pretty much causes incomplete designs and planning, which is something we always tell our client. And it's important to plan the construction, and this is to have a construction floor plan and pretty much a budget, so we stick to it. No? The second one is the lack of production control processes in the industry. There are no processes that allow to control and improve the different instances of the production. The implementation of these processes would all allow you to detect more efficient methods and optimize the different resources. The third one is the problem for the personnel management. Mostly the construction sector depends mainly on the human factor and the staff that works. However, companies usually do not focus on management of their human resources. That's why one of the biggest problems in construction is the high turnover of personnel, which in turn leads to not being fully trained in the processes that should know in detail to improve their performance, and therefore the draft. The fourth one is the little rigorous administration. Construction and real estate developments require strict monitoring of the entire production process. For this reason, it is essential that the personnel in charge of the project have not only technical capacities, but also the management capacity of the personnel that will work. In this way, the administration of the project can be planned. 5. Deficiencies in industrial safety. The construction sector is exposed to a high risk of various accidents. Unfortunately, there are several administrators of construction projects who are not aware of the importance of this topic in planning and considering a waste of money in time invest resources on security. I know this is very different in America. You guys have the ocean and stuff like that, but here in Mexico people tend to look more for costs than security, and in my experience, especially Americans, they tend to look more for security. However, the expense and time and you pretty much know that the expense and time can be lost if an accident occurs on the construction site, would be much greater. The sixth one is the control systems that are an effective control of production. These details is basically focused on the measurement of deviation from what was initially projected, cost and time, the proactive attitude that allows anticipating the possibilities differences to avoid deviating from what was said instead of remedy it and once and what happened. The 7 is the lack of solid work teams. When administrative work teams do not provide accurate information on time, project managers lack the necessary resources to make decisions when they are not in touch. And because, we have to see why these problems happen, no? So the first one is cost of increase in other items, and we want to compensate them in the work. Before exercising the work expenses, Other financial moments of the project can happen. Sometimes when the project starts, the project already have increases and expend specified costs in the financial planning, and therefore the constructor seeks to recover the lost ground in this area. This view is incorrect, since there is exaggerated pressure to change a new reality that has already been set in scenarios like this. It is important that the builder reformulates his financial planning and sets a clear strategy to justify the decisions that are made. The second one is we underestimate the impact on quality of a particular game. When a developer has the idea of forcing a decrease in costs, he begins to analyze the costs of each item of the work. Some are impossible to reduce, but others do have room to maneuver. When analyzed separately, they may not appear to be so relevant in the full vision of the project. However, it is necessary to study the quality route that each item of the work has. That is, how the change will affect the specific item and its indirect or subsequent impacts. The third one is that the project is processing and we see the possibility of losing money. There were overturns in other items or in previous games, and in some cases the economic deviation are already so serious that the project is on the way to losing money. Anyone who is directing the project in this condition, it is in need of deep solutions. However, making aggressive decisions in construction lots can bring hidden costs. Now, the builder who decides to take this path simply by safeguarding the project must make an analysis of these hidden costs, have them documented and inform them to the investors and clients, those who are supporting the project, and a conscious decision in this sense can be viable if possible future scenarios are clear. It is also important that a strict price planning is made and the qualities and costs are strictly planned accordingly. This sounds logical, but not often that is the case. That I had, one time a client whom it was very easy to request cuts in a discriminated manner, and in the end I had to give up give up that project to avoid problems due to lack of quality. So be always willing to walk away if your client is always cutting costs and pretty much in a discriminated way. It is important to make several structural model simulations to ensure that maximum benefits are given of quality that the consumer can pay. It is also important that a double screen filter is done in the work, so a double supervision filter, and in budgets adjusting to the maximum of the possibilities of the project that must necessarily be with a different people. That's something I've done in practice. You are pretty much what I call the horse effect, and I call it like that because it's like focused on some things and you can lose the general vision. It is not isn't pretty much is that when I say the horse effect is because you're focused on something, okay? And it is not because you're dumb, you don't see all of it, but you're focused on something, so you have blind spots. And when you call somebody else to check on your work, that person can see your blind spot because you cannot, because you're pretty much focused on something. So it is important that someone else reviews in addition to this effort, and they should prepare you should prepare contingency plans for escalations of prices in different risky items. In those plans they can pretty much have impacts and soft potings. All this in order not to reduce the quality of the project but to improve costs. Now take into account that there may be delays financially, legally, and human resources, so the work suffers from significant delays, and that impacts their costs. And often it is easy to adjust costs in the finishing stages and final details. That's at the first they do not seem to be serious. On the first hand, you don't see those cuts and on the details. But some isolated cases of diverse problems can appear, and that although it might not seem like it, they can end in millionaire losses. The best practices that we mentioned must have for this subject, I have to clarify that it is not intended to impose a change in a construction method or to suggest a limited weight modification on the constructive vision. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to do some improvements to the budget, to the initial budget, or on the way, pretty much. But what I want with this video is to be a frame of reference and a conceptual to provoke the reflection of the developer and their customers in that sense. And that is important, the way in which they are planned and controlled, to later adjust costs, reducing losses and optimizing processes. With a professional system, all this part of a construction plan, there is the lean construction method, and also a lot of methods which allows you to see exactly the places where you will have each element. And it is important to make budgets instead of requiring costs per square meter of construction that are neither accurate nor better for this discipline. Many people usually do not want to see these two issues because their processes are not as fast as you want, but you already watched the consequences on this video. So this is it. Thank you very much. Do not forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. And this is Planos Constructivos. Thank you very much.